Welcome to Sports CTO Talks. In this series, we will be connecting with technology leaders from the sports industry and we will simplify sports technology. I am Ami, your guide on this journey through the minds of tech leaders who are shaping the futures of sport. We will dive deep into the discussions and innovations driving the industry, from AI to cloud, from cybersecurity to sustainability. If it is sports and technology, we are talking about it. Today, we have an interesting guest with us, Mr. Dale Woods. He is the founder and CEO of DHW Collaborations, which provides advisory services primarily to the sports, entertainment, and cultural sectors, including government. They are a trusted advisor and problem solver with a focus of infrastructure planning and management consultant. Dale has 25 years of experience in providing services and advice to these sectors. Their clients are based both in Australia and abroad, including government, sporting organizations, and professional sports. We welcome you, Dale, to the podcast.
Hi, Ami. How are you? There's only one of me. It's only Dale Wood. There's not two, but that's okay.
Okay, okay.
And I
Today,
should say, Ami, I should say, in terms of technology leaders, I would never profess to be one of those, but I do engage with it on a daily basis, and it's an inevitable and important part of the work that I do.
absolutely, I agree. So today, Dale would be sharing and talking about, from stadiums to screens, how technology is revolutionizing sports consumption, and especially he will be talking about the in-venue experience. Dale, over to you.
Yeah, look, thanks, Amy. Look, I think as I was saying, I engage with technology on a daily basis, especially in my infrastructure planning business. Um, I don't design the technology, and I don't profess to be able to do that, but we see it all the time, and it's as important these days as the seats, the grass, or the court. Uh, the amenities such as concessions and toilets. It's a functional and fundamental part of stadium and arena experience, especially at that spectator type infrastructure at the professional levels and event levels.
True. So, my first question is how does stadium architecture and the designs, like what you make, impact the fan experience? Like the fans coming in the stadiums, it can be both digitally and physically.
Oh, look, physically, it's pretty obvious, Arnie. Like you would go to events like we all do, and it's as simple as the ability to get in and out of the venue or your seat in a simple matter, access and egress. It's the way a venue flows and works from entry point. It's when you hand over your ticket or your contactless ticket entry through the turnstile, through a welcoming foyer. There's concessions and there's retail through to your seat. There's wayfinding. There's and when you get to your seat, there's sight lines. There's the width of your seat. There's the width of the plat, so you've got a bit of leg room. There's the sort of space above the level in front of you so you can see. There's access to scoreboards and video boards and sound. There's access to the field of play. There's access to toilets. Stadium design, as it relates, functional design is everything. And we've got plenty of examples of bad design, but these days there's much less so. There's so much focus on the flow and the patron, and not just patron experience, but also the user athlete experience. And there's the separation, there's the operational experience, the separation between that front of house where the patron is and the back of house where you have forklifts and supplies and all of those sorts of things. It really is everything to the fan and patron experience. It's integral. And as it relates to technology, it's funny when we talk about technology as it relates to stadium or arena can be in materials, it can be in design methodology, it can be in so much. The innovation in technology has come so far, but I guess what we're talking about more today is the sort of techie elements, the bit that sort of looks like a computer or acts like a computer, and pardon my sort of layman terms there, but the evolution has been incredible, from handheld ticketing entry, contactless ticketing through digital connectivity, the major mover in venue technology. A connected venue in the last sort of 15 years or so has made everything. It's made the difference. Integrated AV and lighting and theming of a venue. There's apps. There's venue specific apps. There's apps to see how long a queue might be. The best toilets to go to. Contactless purchasing. Integrated back of house systems. I can keep going and going. There's data analytics. There's even things like Halo screens in the States, very popular starting to be very popular at the moment. Facial recognition technology, Intuit Dome is leading the way in facial recognition from the consumer point of view, facial recognition from a security point of view. It's incredible how fast it's moved, and it probably, certainly from a back of house perspective, it'll only increase in pace. From a front of house, let's see. I think we've already got some pretty amazing innovation at front of house, back of house with systems and the like, with AI and automation. There's so much to come.
So, like over the years, like you are into the industry from decades. So, what are the prominent changes you see, and what are the good ones, which you can carry forward from the design point of venue design point of view, or from the accessibility point of view? What are the next big things that it is a mandatory thing to have it in a stadium or the venue?
Look, I think again, we're talking at that top level that, we can categorize venues into community venues where we just go out and play on a weekend or whatever it might be. But we're talking at that sort of high level, spectator driven major event infrastructure. Look, the fact is a venue needs to be connected now. The ability for patrons to have supplementary avenues to engage, and that can be engagement through social or statistics, replays of their own choosing, etc. It's fundamental to everyday life and everything we do. It's no different in a sporting or major event environment. People want to be connected. And funnily enough, connection in a venue, like I said, it's 15, 20, whatever years old it is. We still haven't exactly cracked the nut on that yet. There's nothing more frustrating, and I can mention the time in the last month that I've been frustrated because of the connectivity in a venue wasn't up to the standard I expect. And there's lots of reasons for that. I live in Melbourne, and I'm at the MCG, and there can be 80,000 people there. There's a reason why that is the case, but the nut hasn't been absolutely cracked on that just yet. So my view is that connectivity is always going to be an absolute foundation for stadium and arena design going forward, and making that better. To me, that's probably the major one going forward. I think there's elements in stadium design that not got lost, but sort of the cool stuff is the techie stuff, the lights, the camera, the action. I think we may have moved away a little bit from the things that patrons really desire the most, and that's sort of ease of access and egress, access to amenity, whether that be concessions or toilets or, it's wayfinding, being able to know where you are, comfortable seats, and feeling safe and secure, and in a welcoming environment. I think some of that got lost a little bit in the last maybe 5-10 years ago, and I think that's more prominent now. To be honest, I believe that we sometimes overrate a patron's reliance or need for technology. Some of those really hygiene factors around those things I just mentioned sometimes are what people want the most. They want to feel safe. They want to feel comfortable. They want to enjoy that experience. Having a connected phone, sure, is a contributor to that, but I don't think it's the primary motivator. Certainly not the primary motivator to attend. And I don't think it's the primary motivator of rating the satisfaction with that experience.
Like over the decades, has the experience of fans changed, between attending a game physically in the stadium? It can be small ones also, like, the weekend ones, or the largest stadiums, or fans do prefer staying home? Like, have you seen a shift, or like, how is it right now?
It's funny, like I think again, 15 years ago there was this trope that, how is venues going to contribute with the compete with the at-home experience? And I used to hear it all the time. You sit on your lovely lounge chair, you've got your big screen TV, you've got your fridge there, you can access your sort of your beer or your soft drinks, and you've got chips or food or whatever, and it's all cheap and accessible, and it's only 2 meters away. And that used to be the thing that I heard the most, 10, 15 years ago. I think I really do believe people are valuing more and more that live experience. But I can talk mostly about probably the Australian market, UK market, the American European market, sorry, the American market and the UK European market. I think people really value great content, and I'll get back to content in a second. So I honestly don't think that the major event and the live venue experience necessarily has to compete with at home, because it's different. At a venue you get to experience a scale that is of belonging that is so much different than being at home. Even with your family or friends at home, that's sort of the atmosphere, the seeing everything unfold in front of you with your own eyes, the smells, the noises, the lights, the whole experience, feeling part of a common sort of tribe or mob. I'm seeing it more and more where people are willing to pay to be part of that. And so I think that the competition is different. I think if venues and content owners focus on those things I talked about, that's sort of the minimum standards of good video boards, good connectivity, but then comfort, affordability, access to amenity, ease to get in and out, whatever, whether that's public transport or whatever it might be. If that is focused on, I don't think that there is a competition. I think there's a really strong base and foundation for both experiences, and there's enough room for everybody to do that. You can watch it at home and enjoy it. It's mass coverage now. Like there's so many mechanisms to watch sport, for instance, across a number of platforms, or network television or pay TV or whatever it might be. But that I'm seeing, especially in Australia, like recently with the Australian Indian Test Series, the numbers, the engagement in that at venue, especially sort of in Adelaide, Melbourne, and Sydney, was incredible, and far surpassing previous times, in my opinion. So look, I think there's a place for both, and nothing replaces being there. I've always thought that, and I've always said that. I used to talk to a lot of people. Again, I kept talking about, this was probably 5 or 8 years ago, around AI or virtual reality sort of headsets. That's the new thing. Put yourself in the event. Put your headset on and stand at short leg as Jasper Bumrah tries to hit Travis Head in the shoulder and get him out, or whatever it might be. My reaction was always, why would I want to cut myself off from the people around me and being connected to those that are also watching, by insulating myself in this sort of pair of goggles or headset or whatever it might be? They're different experiences. I just don't think I'm hoping that live, and I'm pretty sure with the investment in infrastructure that others believe it as well, the live event experience is here to stay, and is only getting better in my experience as people engage more.
Absolutely, I agree with that. But the venue experience is completely different. People shouting, people cheering up. It is a different experience. So like right now, like people are talking about smart stadiums. So like if you could explain me, like, what are smart stadiums, how people are incorporating it in the infrastructure from the infrastructure point of view, and is it a next big thing? Like,
No, well, look, stadiums are smart. New stadiums are smart now. The It's funny. I was just in the US in September and October, and I went to SoFi Stadium in LA, and I was able to sort of get to the perimeter of Intuit Dome, and hadn't. I think it was only just opening right then for a tour of concerts, and um, they're smart venues. Like they're very bright venues. You know, very smart. Smart venue. Like in my experience, what is a smart venue? A smart venue has many definitions for me. Like a smart venue is a connected venue. It's a wired venue. It's an integrated venue, front of house and back of house. But it's also well designed. It has great signage. Um, it's easy to navigate. It's easy to get in and out. It's comfortable. I find, to me, smart isn't just in tech, it's in design as well. But what is a smart stadium? Well, use Intuit Dome as an example. You know, like you can, you know, it has facial recognition linked to your ticket and paying mechanism. It recognizes you walk into a concession stand, you can take your concessions, and it automatically uploads to your credit card. So that's pretty smart. But you know, sometimes it can be too smart, right? Like I had a friend who was there, and there's an example of that failing. The technology failed, and the concession had to be shut down. Like there's not a lot of backup when you go all in like that. There's not a lot of backup. There's not a lot. You can't just automatically set up a pay system and put someone on there to take the credit card or the cash or whatever it might be. So in terms of stadium design, I'm not sure all new builds will be as smart as an Intuit Dome. Yeah, the actual sort of the genesis of the dome itself is coming from people who have been involved in major tech companies for years and years and years, and that venue is going to be nothing else other than amazing from a tech perspective. But I'm not sure it goes to that level, but I think most stadium design these days at a reasonably large scale, with aspiration to host sort of major sporting events, they're typically going to be pretty smart. You know, it's hygiene now to have a wide stadium that is connected to implement systems, especially back of house systems that are totally integrated from ticketing all the way through to point of sale to staffing, all the way through to your financials. I don't think everyone's there just yet. I think new builds are probably more closer to that, and sort of integrated also with, you know, your lighting and AV and all of those things, theming, the whole lot. I think that's reasonably standard these days in terms of smart stadiums being the next big thing. I don't think they're the next big thing. They're the thing. You know what I mean? Like if funding is your problem and you can't be as smart as you would like to be, you're probably a little bit behind those that are going to be at that level, in my experience.
Okay. So, like, a fan experience or fan engagement is the utmost important thing. So, like, over the years, like, how has social media, like, you have seen it evolving, right? So, in stadium, how has that changed? The social media, the Instagram reels, there are TikTok reels, and there is so many things. So, like, how has that changed? And what change and what shift have you seen? And what do you foresee?
Look, I think one of the things about social is, and this probably celebrates the live event experience as much as anything, is that people want to tell other people what they're doing and are proud to do so when they're in an event. There's nothing like your selfie back to the field of play as someone's playing football or cricket or Australian rules or whatever it might be that's on the field, or a concert, or you know, whoever it is. I think that's been there since social sort of really caught fire, right? I think that the difference is probably the venues and the content owners using social to that advantage to embrace it, to get people to use social and then display proudly on video boards or whatever it might be, or use social to test temperature on certain things, like the best player on the ground, or who should be the next person to bowl, or whatever it might be. I think there's just more embracing of it. But I think from the point of view of social, and like I said, for me, it's as much as proving that you're there, and that sort of proof of concept for the live event experience. People want to show that they're having fun and they're doing cool stuff. And how is that going to evolve? It's a really good question. I think there has been a fair evolution already in relation to that. Where does it go from here? I'm not exactly sure. I'm not a social expert. I'm on it a little bit, and probably drives me mad more than anything. But I think it's probably more content owners and venue owners embracing it, using it. It's a fact. Well, social is not necessarily a fact of the live event experience, but connection is, whether that's to stats or fantasy leagues, gambling. Let's be realistic, gambling and that handheld access to gambling. I think it's now a supplementary mode of engaging with the content that's in front of you at the live event experience. The evolution might be more in the content owners and venues embracing that and using that to advantage in some form or another, whether that's just to improve the live event experience of the patron, or to encourage consumption. Using that for offers and those sorts of things. So that's where I think that might evolve. But like I said, it's reasonably fundamental to the experience these days, which is a bit sad. I talked about content before. Content is everything. You can build a venue that looks like a spaceship, has 1 million screens in it, the fastest Wi-Fi. If nothing's happening on the field of play, there's no one there. Not one person there. The only people there is the security guard and the person, sweeping the vacant concourses. So I think from that perspective, we just shouldn't lose the fact that I don't necessarily like people's eyes moving away from the heroes on the field of play. That's if I'm giving advice to any venue and they talk all about this stuff. So if you haven't got a good content profile, you don't attract amazing content. All this other stuff is just going to get rusty and old very quickly because no one's going to be using it.
Okay. So what are stadiums doing right now to engage the fans during live matches? Because the matches are for hours and hours together. So beyond the game, what are things happening? The trending things right now
Look,
in the stadium.
like this. To be honest with you, it's all reasonably supplementary in my view. I keep going back to the point. If the content on the field of play isn't good, people aren't there. So this stuff is, and there's not a real big point in putting better content on around the major thing there, because that sort of defeats the purpose of being there in the first place. So if it's an IPL game and then you put on Beyonce, that in the middle of the break, it sort of defeats the whole purpose. Who's there for Beyonce? Who's there for the IPL? At the end of the day, that a lot of the stuff that venues do these days is just to keep people's attention, to ensure they don't drift. There's things like, in terms of, there's the ability to engage with fans via, contact, whether it's text messages or emails or things like with offers and those sorts of things could be based on analytics, could just be based on the fact that they have the detail because they've walked in with a ticket. And then there's the basic stuff around sort of in-break entertainment. And look, there's music, there's lights, there's the theming of venues these days is pretty outstanding, and in the more modern venues in particular. And that can be enough to keep people's attention as well. But in terms of engaging fans, I think, and there's also a difference between the venue and the content owner. A lot of the venues are just shells that the content owners actually hire to use or tenants to use. But I think most of that sort of engagement comes with supplementary sort of activity, just to keep people's attention in things like breaks and those sorts of things. Like I said, at the end of the day, if I'm at a venue and my attention's drawn away from the match, then I'm nothing more than frustrated. I'm there to watch the sport, and I think most people are.
Agree. Agree with you on that. So, like, what are a few, like, some traditional or rituals that make live sports event unforgettable today?
Look, I think it's as much as if you use well, some of the rituals are being with family and friends and sitting in the same spot week in, week out. I'm talking about leagues, whether that be, and I'm maybe I'm being more Western in that approach in terms of, people have seats to their AFL team and they sit in them every week in, week out with their family, their friends. They get to know the people in front of them and behind them. It's those little rituals. It's bringing, it could be as simple as bringing your sort of lunch or dinner in sort of into the match, whether it be sandwiches or soup and tea and coffee or whatever that might be. It's the rituals of meeting up with friends and family before and after the match to be excited about what is about to happen, and then be more excited because what happened was what you wanted, or be disappointed because it didn't. They're the sort of rituals for me that make live sport everything. And it's all people oriented. Again, for me, the experience at a venue, there's a base level of experience where there's good technology, you feel connected, you can do all of those things. Everything's comfortable, you feel safe, you can get around easily. It's heightened by the people around you. That's the ritual. The ritual is being part of the team and the mob and feeling as one with something, greater than yourself. I know that sounds a bit twee, but that's it. That's the essence of live sport or sport. It's no different from live sport on television. Like television, the best drama on TV is live sport. And while it's being while the traditional mechanism of broadcast is being challenged, people are still paying a lot of money to be able to cast it in some form because it's instantaneous. You can't binge watch it. You can't set aside and just watch it later. It's very hard to. You can, but it's very hard to with the socials and the proliferation of information coming at you. But that alone isn't just about necessarily sitting by yourself. That feeling of belonging can transcend from your screen into you and those around you. To me, but they're the rituals that make live sport amazing. All people focused.
Correct. So, like, as the times are changing, times are evolving. So, what are the teams or the leagues, even doing, what are the changes you have seen that they keep in stadium experiences exciting and engaging with the fans, or for the from the fan experience point of view?
Look, I think everyone's got their own value proposition when it comes to that. There's like I said, to me, it's all quite supplementary. It's the end of the day, it's much easier to sell a product in this example, an event or a game or a match or a league when it's good, when it's exciting, when it's close, when you've been able to build up a passionate following. And again, even if it's not close, you want to feel part of that mob that all goes together to watch. I support a team in the AFL in Melbourne, hardly won a game for 5 years. I still go every week because of that belonging and feeling, and I love it. I'd love to win more games, trust me. North Melbourne Kangaroos, please start winning more games. But to me, I don't think the leagues, we can talk about it any way we want to talk about it. I think if you're talking about live experience, I don't really think anyone is doing it amazingly well. I think venues are adding to it. Things like, you know, more diversity and variation in the types of food and drink that you can buy and experience. It used to be just again, I'm talking from my, chips and a meat pie and, a soft drink or a beer. These days there's like craft beers and there's all different types of food and there's those things. That's the venue sort of elevating the experience in that. But from a fan engagement point of view and leagues, I'll be honest, I don't think anyone's necessarily leading the way in venue. There's leagues that do it really well and competitions that do it really well. 365 all year round with all different types of events and whether it's drafts, the IPL make a big deal of their draft these days and all those things. There's leagues engage really well 365, but in terms of in venue, I don't think it's evolved all that much. The venue's got a lot to do with it, with providing variety and those sorts of things. But the leagues, I haven't seen a whole lot that changes around the world. Whether it's marching bands at college football or the ritual of take me out to the ball game at a baseball game. It's baby racing at an AFL game, which happened last year. Or people trying to shoot a basket for $10,000. Things haven't changed much. To be absolutely frank, and I don't think it's evolved all that much. Whether it could be break entertainment, some sort of mini concert or something. It's all pretty standard.
Okay. So, what are the few challenges? It can be for smaller venues or the larger stadiums from the infrastructure point of view. There might be a few challenges. So, what are those?
Well, if you're talking about technology, the greatest challenge for
Technology, infrastructure, everything, mix of all.
Well, I'll start with technology. The thing that constrains technology is heritage design. Older venues, very hard to, very difficult to rewire, connect older venues that weren't delivered for that purpose. Things have moved pretty quickly in the last sort of 15, 20 years. So, and a lot of venues out there are old, right? In India, there's lots of old venues. There's less new than there is old, right? So a lot less new than there is old. So, that's a constraint that is a challenge for venue operators and venue owners. And it's not insurmountable, but, you can throw money at most problems and fix it. And that's something you can fix with money. Of course, it creates operational disruption and all sorts of things, but it can be done. The biggest challenges for venues, as I see it at the moment, are probably there's probably two. There's this sort of, again, I'm probably talking about my market in particular here. It's sort of, I think security's a huge one. Security and safety is something that will remain, has been prominent probably. Again, I keep going back to 20 years ago. Things like, I don't like to talk about it, but things like September 11 changed the landscape completely. And we've seen incidents reasonably consistently across sort of entertainment and sporting venues since then. And that gives headaches to venue owners. And there's some things you can do and there's some things you can't do. And even if you do some of those things, it doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% safe. So I think that's always going to be a challenge. I think there's keeping up with the best, this sort of mentality of having to keep getting better all the time. I think that's a challenge. This feeling that you need to be better all the time and feeling like you're falling behind. I think that's a challenge because infrastructure is expensive, more and more so in current times than it's extraordinary how much things are costing, certainly in this market, certainly in the US and Europe. Huge costs. I think they're huge challenges that that aren't easy to overcome. Like I said, but both those things I talked of can be overcome with money. But you've got to have the money. I think the other thing that is a challenge for venues is well, another thing. I'm not necessarily being exhaustive, but I think another thing is sort of the competing interests of those that own the venue versus those that um, hire the venue or are tenant at the venue, the content owner, because not all venues are vertically integrated, but the owner of the venue is the owner of the content. In fact, in many instances, it's not. And then that sort of competing interest of the patron and keeping it affordable. I think, there's this sort of competitive paradigm is one that's always been there. It's probably only getting more and more difficult. The content owners have got a much better sense for their value. The venue owners, their costs are only going up from an operational and capital sense. And the patron, cost of living across the world has been, going up and up and up at a reasonably fast rate in the last number of years. I can't speak for India, but certainly in Australia, the US, Europe again, they're going up and up, and that can be like keeping it affordable for those that are actually buying the tickets and that you want to buy food and drink and come back then the next week. To me, that's one of the challenges. It's less about design; it's more around balance. Balance of the key stakeholders.
Okay. So, as you were discussing about the challenges, what do you foresee in the coming next 3 to 5 years? How from the venue management or the fan experience, like how is it going to change, and what are the positive sides which are shaping up in the next 3 5 years
Yeah,
from
I
the
think that's
venue management point?
yeah, I think that's a great question. I think where venue management, and this is probably more around venue design as well, as I think there's a mantra to get people to leave the event earlier, get them to stay longer and leave later, spread the arrivals and the departures. We've all been to big events, and it can be a real pain. Certainly getting out, but sometimes getting in as well. I think, if you're building a new venue now, take into account you want to be close to, cities, and you want to be close to public transport. And in America, they love driving and things like that. But I'm probably talking more in an Australian point of view here. It's this idea around developing a precinct around a venue, and sometimes the venue manager has it can be a new skill set for a venue manager to be involved in stuff that happens outside of the venue walls, whether that's hospitality venues or live sites or whatever that might be. So I think that's a challenge. That's an opportunity, and it might be a bit of a challenge. But I think the starting point for building a venue these days is precinct, whether that's you drop it into a precinct that's existing or you create a whole precinct of its own. Like, I think that Intuit Dome SoFi examples, at Hollywood Park there in LA, is a good example of this idea of creating a precinct. There's not so much land and space out there, but the idea is to create a precinct out at Inglewood there. So, but I think that mentality is more and more prominent. Again, I don't think it's overly new, but I think it's something that is one of the first questions asked now. I think also from a venue management point of view, and I think it's that sort of integration, and this is the boring bit, I guess. It's probably, we try and provide a comfortable environment, safe environment, access, all of those sorts of things, make it as easy as possible for our patrons. But I think there has been evolution in back of house integration, and with sort of that really fast evolution of AI and automation, I think that there's really great opportunity over the next 3 or 4 years. It goes so quick, probably 3 or 4 minutes, to be honest, around better integrating systems, better automating. Now, I'm not one for, I don't like the idea of automation at the expense of people. That's just not me. I just don't like that. But at the same time, it's a fact of life, and it's coming, and hopefully people can be redeployed in different tasks that make them smile. But for me, that's a real opportunity for back of house. I think back of house venue operations, up until somewhat recently, the back of house of the venue and the front of house of the venue were basically the same thing. You could be at a venue and someone will walk past with a sort of fork or drive past with a forklift as you just get out of the way, that sort of stuff. Venues aren't built that way anymore. They're built to separate those sorts of things. So it's not surprising that there's still opportunity in that back of house operations around whatever that might be. It could be staffing, it could be purchasing, it data analytics. It could go as far as turf management, AI's impact on turf management and around temperature and all of those sorts of things, and the way to the temperature could be a mechanism to change a watering cycle, for instance, or whatever that might be. I'm using live turf as an example. I think to me that there's great opportunity in that over the next 3-4 years. Again, I'm no expert in AI or automation, but it might be quicker, it might be longer, but I think that's a great opportunity. From a fan perspective, Army, it's a good question. Like, we talk about I hear a bit about the next big thing in fan engagement. Typically when I hear that, I sort of feel a little bit about someone's trying to sell me some magic beans. I think as fan engagement goes, and we're talking about live venue experience here, I think, like I said, I think most people aren't necessarily looking for that. I think for me, if I was looking about that challenge, I think the challenge in fan engagement is connection. I know we've used connectivity. This is a different meaning of connection here. It's deepening that connection to the fan. I think that's a challenge. It's nearly infinite. It just keeps going and going and going. I don't think a product or a thing necessarily increases that. It's just it's that connection, developing that connection, and you can't push that connection. You need to be welcomed in to be connected, right? So that's why it's a challenge and it's hard, and it's not one size fits all. That's the problem with. It was pretty easy 25 years ago. No one cared. No one cared about connection. It wasn't even a thing, But people's expectations have changed. People's experience with technology has meant that it's very easy for them to have personalized experiences that they didn't even drive themselves. It's just by their habit. So I think that will be the thing will remain a focus of venue owners and venue managers and content owners, is just deepening that connection. I would suggest, like I said, if someone's trying to sell you a thing to improve fan engagement, yeah, I've heard it before. Nothing like that's like NFTs, right? NFT was supposed to be, the blockchain NFT sort of stuff. It's supposed to be, the game changer. All it did was lead to angst and anger and disappointment. Not a lot of wealth creation. Certainly not a lot of net wealth creation. So, like I said, to me, it's deepening that connection.
Okay. So, we will go on to the next segment, that is a rapid fire round. I will ask you, you will have to be really quick in answering the questions. You cannot think, okay?
You'll have to stop me talking if I do.
Okay. Stadium or couch? Where do you prefer watching a game?
So was that stadium or
Couch.
stadium? Easy.
What's your go-to?
For all the reasons I spoke of before, I'd much rather be there and feel and experience it. My heightened excitement is much more at the venue than it is. I love I'm happy to watch it on the couch. Don't get me wrong, but the experience is elevated.
Okay. Next, what's your go-to snack while watching sports? Stadium food or home food?
I don't eat a lot of food at the stadium, I must say. At home, it would be potato crisps.
Okay. Best,
I'm hopeless. All lolly. So I've got a sweet tooth. I'll let him.
okay. Best live sports experience you have experienced till now. Name one.
Like I've been doing this for 25 years. Like, wow. I was at look, I was at SoFi watching my 49ers versus the Rams, and we lost, unfortunately, back in September. I'll say that. But the queue is about I, I watched a test match at Wankhede Stadium uh, in 2003, I think it was, or 2004, and Sachin was batting, and I've never seen a bigger line to get in the stadium. I've never seen a stadium empty out so quick when he got out. India bowled Australia out for about 100 on the last day and won the match, and geez, that was an experience.
That was
But
it.
yeah, I could name, but I'll say one of my more recent ones because of it suits the topic of today. Amazing venue and one of my favourite teams.
Okay. Next is which sport do you think is best enjoyed in the stadium? Name one, maximum two, okay?
AFL is the Australian rules. The AFL League is an amazing sport. The other one for me is ice hockey. Ice
Okay.
hockey is incredible in the venue. Watching that puck fly around with the background of the white with the black puck, it is, and the, the collisions and the noise it makes, absolutely unbelievable.
What's the one thing that makes an in-venue, in-stadium experience the most enjoyable? Name one thing.
Uh, my tribe around me, the people around me that are there for the same reason. That makes it amazing.
Okay. If you could sit on the first row or the front row of any sporting event in the history, which one would it be?
Any sporting event in history.
Any sporting event.
Okay, this is reasonably bespoke, but 1975 VFL Grand Final, North Melbourne versus Hawthorn, the Kangas' first premiership in 50 years. But I know that that's probably not what you were thinking, but there's a million amazing things I would have loved to have seen. But bodyline Test cricket in the 30s in Australia,
Okay.
even amazing World Cup finals at the Macarena or something like. You make these questions very hard, Emma.
That's the
But
reason it is the rapid fire.
yeah, sorry, and I'm not very rapid. I apologize.
Okay, last question in the segment is what's your ultimate dream venue to watch a live game?
Um, it's a great question, actually. I always wanted to go to Candlestick Park, where the 49ers and the San Francisco Giants used to play. Um, but I'll tell you right now, the venues I love, I really love going to SoFi Stadium in LA. I've said that a few times. The MCG, the Coliseum of Melbourne and Australia, always makes me smile when I walk in there. Marvel Stadium in Melbourne, the indoor venue, much maligned here. I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's just been improved. And the last one is Madison Square Garden. What a venue. It's just incredible in New York. And I've seen some amazing events in there. And yeah, they're the ones. I can't give you one, and I won't go back into history, but they're the four venues that come to mind for me.
Okay, perfect. Now we'll go move on to the next one. You will have to answer this question into 30 seconds. Okay, just try, give it a shot.
I'll do it my best. I talk too much.
uh, Explain me venue management and the evolution of technology into that in 30 seconds.
Uh, I think the evolution will come from AI and automation and back of house integrated systems, and aligning to front of house and things like digital and AV and those sorts of things where in the presentation of the venue. I think that's where there has been a lot of evolution, but I think there's more to come.
Perfect, perfect. All right. Thank you, Dale, for sharing your insights and giving your time for the podcast and joining us today. Everyone,
It's
yeah.
been an absolute pleasure. I hope the next person you talk to knows more about the ins and outs in technology than I do, but I can talk about venues and patron and fan interaction with it and sport all day, every day.
That I agree. That I agree on. Okay, everyone, let's stay connected for more understanding on sports and technology in the future. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and you never miss out on an episode. Share it with your friends, families, or the people who are enthusiastic about sports and technology. That was Dale sharing his wonderful insights about venue management today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Meet you the next time in the next episode. Till that, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep exploring.
Bye for